History Month, a proclamation. This will be introduced by Greg Hemer from the Milwaukee Historical Society. And I think, is Carolyn joining? Where's Greg?
It's Michelle. Michelle and, yeah, it's not Greg.
Oh, it's not?
No, it's Michelle and...
Did I miss? It says Greg Hemer.
It says Greg.
No,
it does say
I'm just
Greg.
reading the script. Excellent. We didn't want to hear from him anyway.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, councilors, and city manager. My name is Michelle Hemer, Secretary of the Milwaukee Historical Society. It is mine and Carolyn's extreme pleasure to be presenting the Proclamation for Women's History Month in March, sponsored by the Milwaukee Historical Society and the City of Milwaukee. The Milwaukee Museum, open Saturdays 1 to 5 p.m., located at 3737 Southeast Adams Street, has seen a huge increase in visitation and interest since the exhibit opening, Milwaukee, A History of the West Dogwood City, and our newly remodeled Claire Kupenbender Research Library. Since its grand opening in February, we have seen an increase from 10 visitors to about 25 each Saturday. The average visit time was 15 to 20 minutes. Now it is 30 to 45 minutes. We expect even greater success at the museum as we move forward to implement Lots Loop, an interactive walking tour of the downtown area, and our Women's History Project covering life in Milwaukee from 1950 to present from a woman's perspective. It is my pleasure to introduce Carolyn Tomei. She has proven that you can be a loving parent, 17 of them, now that's a lot of love, and be active in your community and create a difference. Carolyn Tomei started off on the Planning Commission and was elected to City Council in 1996. She became mayor in 1998 and in true Tomei fashion won by a landslide. In 2000, she became the first woman from Milwaukee to be elected to House District 41, ending her career as state representative on her terms by retiring in 2014. She is still active in the Island Station NDA and Kellogg Good Neighbor Committee. Carolyn is an inspiration to me, not only because she has the best backyard in the summertime, but also she has provided me with the confidence and encouragement to start my own business, be involved in the Linwood NDA, and be an active member of the Milwaukee Historical Society. Let's see, I lost my place here. Because she has done so much with her life as a mother and community leader, I know anything is possible for my future as well. Please welcome Miss Carolyn Tomei.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. I'm Carolyn Tomei, and I do indeed live in Island Station neighborhood, and I've lived there for 52 years. And thank you, Michelle, and for Greg, too, because they've done such a wonderful job at the Historical Society. It's just fantastic, so thank you very much.
Thank you. It's a group effort there.
I know it is, I know, but you are very important there. So I'm here to thank you and acknowledge your proclamation for Women's History Month. Thank you for doing that. First, I want to mention the strong women who helped make Milwaukee the wonderful place it is today. Women like Annie Ross, Florence Letting, Krista McDonald, Joy Burgess, the first female mayor, Nell Martin, our own state legislator, Karen Power, our women here on the City Council, thank you all, our city manager, thank you. Recently I heard Bob Dylan singing, "Times They Are Changin'." And of course we're celebrating those momentous changes that are currently happening, just exploding. It is so gratifying and wonderful. And it's a long time in coming. And I want to talk briefly about my own personal history. One of my first jobs was in a bank. I discovered a man who had the same job I did and was paid almost twice what I was paid. So I asked the manager, why was this so? And he told me, well, because he would be supporting a family. Well, he wasn't married. He didn't have a family. I was, and I did. I was living in a small town, And this little town had its own radio station. At night, they played classical music. During the day, they'd play pop. And they needed a DJ in the evening. Well, I had a background in classical music, so I applied for the job. I was told by the manager, who was a man, of course, oh, he couldn't hire me because he couldn't allow me to be driving at night. Here I was, a married woman with children, right? Some years later, I was doing graduate work at OHSU in the psychiatric unit. The restrooms there were designated doctors and nurses. What kind of message did that send out? As I heard this young woman speaking and think of all the other students who come here to speak, they have no sense of the doors that had already been closed for women for decades and decades, maybe centuries. About that time, I was campaigning for the Equal Rights Amendment. I wonder why. I heard a wonderful speaker who described a big banner that was carried in a march supporting this campaign. It was a large picture of a large city, and in the middle of the city was an enormous, deep hole. In the bottom of this hole was a very small pedestal. And on top of this pedestal was a very, very small woman. The caption said in bold letters, "Being on a pedestal is the pits." I went on to become the mayor of Milwaukee, which I loved. Eventually, as Michelle was saying, I was persuaded to run for the House of Representatives because no woman from Milwaukee had ever been elected to that position. Well, you can imagine my disappointment when I got to the House of Representatives and found it just another good old boys club. When I would speak at meetings in those days, I was usually greeted with silence or sort of embarrassment. But often, a male voice would chime up with the same message that I had given, and that message was heard. And I thought, my golly, is there an echo in here? I was treated by the men like I didn't have a brain in my cute little head. There was no recognition that I had been on the Milwaukee City Council, as Michelle said, that I'd been mayor, I'd been chair of the Planning Commission. I had been involved in local boards and commissions for many years. I had a deep background of knowledge and experience in my city, in my county, and in the metro area. But the most egregious example to me of women's history at that time and the cultural imbalance of power happened to me in the not too distant past, 6 years and 2 days to be exact. As far as I could determine after this event, this behavior had never happened before in the 100-year-old long governmental history, nor indeed has it happened since. Many of you have been in or have seen the big room in the Capitol where the formal House of Representatives has its floor sessions. During one of these floor sessions, in that very formal setting, we were debating a very difficult bill. I took a strong position opposing it. And as I was speaking, one of my male colleagues yelled out to me, "Shut your mouth!" I was, and I am still, stunned by that experience. It had never happened before, and it's never happened since. An interesting aspect of this is that he had been a law enforcement officer, and it was well known that he carried a gun on the floor of the House. So he was safe, both as a man and especially as an armed man. He would never have dared to yell at another man in that setting, and I would guess not anywhere. So I'm telling you these stories because they are personal to me and an important part of my history. I know I'm not alone in most of these experiences, and that many women of my age can identify Okay, Carolyn, don't lose your place. Oh, just a minute. I've also had a wonderful history, both as a woman and especially as a resident here in Milwaukee. And I want to tell you, I have never been treated poorly, both when I was on council, when I was on the planning commission, when I was on other boards and commissions. I've always been treated with the utmost respect, and I appreciate that. So I could tell you my good history, but that would take far too long, so I'm not going to be able to do that. Suffices to say, thank you for the proclamation. Keep up your good work, all of you, including Ann. And go girls of every age and make a new and better history. Thank you.
All right, well, I guess then I'm reading the proclamation. Whereas Milwaukee women of every race, class, and ethnic background have made historic contributions to the growth and strength of our city in countless recorded and unrecorded ways. And whereas Milwaukee women have played and continue to play critical economic, cultural, and social roles in every sphere of the city by constituting a significant portion of the labor force working inside and outside the home. And whereas Milwaukee women have played a unique role throughout the history of the city by providing the majority of the volunteer labor force of the city, and whereas Milwaukee women were particularly important in the establishment of early charitable, philanthropic, and cultural institutions in our city, and whereas Milwaukee women of every race, class, and ethnic background served as early leaders in the forefront of every major progressive social change movement, and whereas Milwaukee women have served our country courageously in the military. And whereas Milwaukee women have been leaders not only in securing their own rights of suffrage and equal opportunity, but also in the industrial labor movement, the civil rights movements, and especially the peace movement. And whereas despite these contributions, the role of Milwaukee women in history has been overlooked and undervalued. Now, therefore, I, Mark Gamba, Mayor of the City of Milwaukee, a municipal corporation in the County of Clackamas in the state of Oregon, and with the full support and sponsorship of the Milwaukee Historical Society, do hereby proclaim March 2018 to be Women's History Month in Milwaukee, and do recommend its observance with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we get a photo, Mr. Mayor, with the representatives and city council and the city manager as well?
Broken toe and no, I have a broken toe and it's killing me.
Do you want us all come to you?
Yeah, no. Just give me time to
TV, Greg.
zip my boot.
Women's History logo.
There you go.
There we go. There you go.
Great.
Good idea. Way back.
There we go. Now everybody's settled. Beautiful. Thank you.